the truth is that I personally have always welcomed those reports. I found them to be very useful, though narrow. And I can't blame them for it being narrow, because to produce an extensive and comprehensive report on performance requires an agency like the National Education Inspectorate to do the detailed work. And of course, the report that will be produced by the Inspectorate will not just be on exam performance, but on all aspects of school management. So parents will get a far better idea as to what is happening in a school and how to compare schools. So the Inspectorate will reinforce the principles of accountability. Then there is the Jamaica Teaching Council. It's a very important organization. It is already operational to some extent. We have the executive director here with us, Dr. Winsome Gordon, a very capable person, and someone who I find to be very energetic, moving the organization in leaps and bounds. But that organization will become the professional body for teachers. I was going to use the term, the regulating body for teachers. That's essentially what it will be. But as I said earlier, I don't want to focus so much in the first instance on enforcement. I want to focus on support and development in the first instance. In the first instance. So the body will look at things, for example, licensing of teachers, registration and licensing of teachers. That is very important in creating a profession out of teaching. It will set the academic qualifications for teaching in the country. It will set the professional credits that a teacher should acquire in order to get promotions. It will set the standards of behavior that is expected of teachers inside and outside of the classroom, because that speaks to a profession. And in teaching, credibility is critical. So we can't have teachers in the classroom teaching one thing and outside they do another thing. Credibility is important. Then it will assist the Ministry of Education in supply issues, to give us advice as to the areas in which we need to focus public resources in terms of developing various skills. So if the emphasis on literacy, and we need to have all our primary school teachers well-resourced in this way, then the direction as to how we do that and how many teachers we would need, that would be directed by the Jamaica Teaching Council. But the important thing is that, of course, teachers who don't meet the licensing requirement won't be able to teach. Teachers who breach the principles of the profession could face a revocation of their license. That's a means of accountability. That is the enforcement part of accountability. That's the enforcement part of accountability. And I have always been very careful how I deal with the issues of, for example, teachers demonstrating, teachers protesting. But as a society, we can't accept that. Regardless of what the problem is, it is embarrassing to see some of our colleagues in public, on the television, how they behave. teachers have to be held to a higher standard than the rest of us in the society. And so the Jamaica Teaching Council will now have the authority to deal with all those issues. Deal with all those issues. We're going to have some resistance, of course, but I am convinced that this is the right way to go. Then, in terms of improving performance after we have evaluated, interrogated, and invigilated through the National Education Inspectorate, we now have to look at regional education authorities. For me, as a minister, this is the most challenging. I see Frank is smiling because Frank knows the debates that we're going through as to how exactly do we deploy these regional education authorities. And people who know about how the Jamaican education system is structured would say, but you have regional offices already. What is going to be so different about this new structure in education? What is going to be? You already delegate, and you have deconcentrated the ministry in some respects in regions. Well, let me see if I can explain it, because it all centers around accountability. The regional educational authorities, well, let me start from this sense. The central ministry will retreat into a policy, monitoring, and evaluation function. The central ministry will retreat into a policy, monitoring, and evaluation function. So routine operations and decision-making that can be deployed through set processes will be devolved to the regional agencies, except in cases where it makes economic sense to retain a central function. For example, let us say in paying salaries, where you really need to just have one very robust payroll system that could just pay all your teachers. So that's a central function that could be retained. So if the ministry sheds itself of the day-to-day functions of approving leave and issues, all kinds of issues that the ministry has to deal with, and puts those issues for school improvement, for example, to the regional authorities. And let us say that a parent complains that a child has been turned away from a school for whatever reason. The parent in the region, their first line of reference is not the regional office. It is the Central Ministry of Education. So they will take the bus from Maypen, come to the Ministry of Education, sit in the lobby, and ask to speak to the minister. That's certainly not a devolved system. Certainly not. And then one has to ask, what is happening? Well, I can't ask that question because the system is structured in a way where I could hold the director for the region accountable. So the mindset change that has to occur, that is a real transformation. The structural change that has to occur in how the education system is organized, that is a real transformation. So the regional education authorities must be viewed as the final stop for a result, and not the Ministry of Education. So when there is an issue that occurs within a region, the parents must feel that it is the region that can resolve their issues and not the Ministry Central of Education. That means that I, as a minister, will have to resist the temptation of trying to solve every single local problem that comes across my desk.